A federal judge has issued a scathing rebuke of the Trump administration's efforts to unseal grand jury transcripts in the Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking case. The Justice Department had been pushing for the release of the court materials as Trump's own supporters have criticized the DOJ for not releasing its files on Jeffrey Epstein. The judge, however, making clear he's keeping those traditionally secret transcripts under wraps, not because they're too sensitive, but because they don't reveal anything new. Quote, the government's entire premise that the Maxwell grand jury materials would bring to light meaningful new information about Epstein and Maxwell's crimes, or the government's investigation into them, is demonstrably false. Judge Paul Engelmeyer added this, quote, a member of the public appreciating that the Maxwell grand jury materials do not contribute anything to public knowledge might conclude that the government's motion for their unsealing was aimed not at transparency, but at diversion, aimed not at full disclosure, but at the illusion of such. Let's get straight to our legal and political sources. Elie Honig, former federal prosecutor, and Zolan Cano-Youngs, White House correspondent for the New York Times. Lovely to see both of you this evening. Elie, let me start with you here. I mean, this judge, very direct, very straightforward, rather scathing in his assessment here, basically saying, I'm not going to put out this thing that's traditionally secret and break this norm because you're not going to learn anything from it that you don't already know.
Exactly. The judge cuts right through the fog here, gets right to the point, and calls out DOJ explicitly in that excerpt you just showed us, Casey. The judge says basically this is all about appearances. This is about the illusion of transparency, not actual transparency. And let me explain why that's all legally relevant. Because ordinarily, grand jury materials are secret. That's the very essence of the grand jury. There is a rule that allows a judge to unseal grand jury records, but only in very narrow circumstances that do not apply here. And so DOJ argued to this judge, well, Judge, there's this great need to know, and we are proponents of transparency. And the judge then looked at the grand jury transcripts and said, this is already out in the public. This is mostly contained in the indictments that we've all seen, in the trial evidence that we saw against Ghislaine Maxwell. And so the judge really calls out DOJ. And by the way, I know this judge, and this is uncharacteristic. I mean, this is not a judge who tends to be a bomb thrower, but he did here.
Wait, say more, Elie. What else do you know? How else would you characterize this judge for us?
He's careful, he's moderate, he's modest. He has a deep background in the law. You know, there are some judges, Casey, that are more likely to say dramatic things or to issue sort of sharp rulings. I would say this judge, Paul Engelmeyer, is not among them. And so it really caught my attention that he came out so strong in this opinion.
Really fascinating. And Zolan, the politics of this, right? I mean, we've spent a lot of today talking about diversion. Certainly some people have suggested that what the president did today on D.C. was diversion from exactly this, the Ghislaine Maxwell situation. But talk about how their requests for this grand jury material fit in, considering that they have so much at their own disposal that they could simply decide to put out there that they don't have to ask a judge for.
Right. Well, we know just, looking at this, the judge's writing today, we know that this isn't just about a criminal investigation here, that there are politics at play as well, and a political crisis to also tame when it comes to the administration. Now, a couple weeks ago, I would tell you, based off of what I was hearing from officials in the White House, that they were hoping this would just go away. They were hoping that the far-right flank of the MAGA wing would stop asking about this, that they would stop facing questions about it, and that it would go away. It hasn't, right? So now you need a way where you can almost appease that flank that is watching this, and by the way, was watching the words of the President's Attorney General as well, who rose expectations for this, was watching the words of many people around the president who during the campaign stoked the flames of this and rose expectations. Now you're looking for a way to appease them. Well, this is a Justice Department action here. You can point to the Justice Department while creating some distance and say, well, we're trying here. You can point to the president's lawyer who is going to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell's attorneys as well and say that there's an attempt there. All the while, you're still not keeping the spotlight slightly off of the president in the White House. That seems to be the thinking here for the White House. Have the Justice Department go through this bureaucratic action, something you can point to say there's an effort being made. But all the while, we've seen that has not calmed or quieted these questions from his own supporters. That's what makes this a real political crisis here, that the heat is coming from his own political supporters. We haven't seen that they've been able to tame that pressure yet.
Yeah, and I mean, Elie Honig, where could we learn more that's new, that we don't know? about Jeffrey Epstein? Where?
Well,
Where is it?
If it's in DOJ. I mean, if they wanted to give us everything but the grand jury materials, they could absolutely do that. And look, as Zolan just pointed out, like this is something that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and the president and vice president all came blazing into office promising to throw open the files. They can do it if they want. I should note, by the way, though, that's not the way business is ordinarily done. I mean, those promises they were making were wild. They were out of step with DOJ policy. What I think DOJ should have done from the start here is just say, sorry, folks, we don't crack open our investigative files just because people are curious. If there's a subpoena, we'll deal with it. If there's a Freedom of Information Act request, we'll deal with it. But instead, they went down this road of promising and guaranteeing that you know our socks would be blown off by all this. And then when they had to slam on the brakes, that's how it rebounded against them politically, as Zolan was just laying out.
All right, Elie Honig, Zolan Cano-Youngs, always great to see you both. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My next source tonight is Teresa Helm, an Epstein abuse survivor. She says she was 22 years old when Ghislaine Maxwell groomed her. Teresa, thanks so much for spending some time with us tonight.
Hi, good evening.
So I want to start today with the judge who responded to the Epstein survivors, who supported releasing the grand jury material. And the judge says that this appeared to be premised on an understandable but mistaken belief that the materials would present new information. Do you agree with the judge here? Was this the right decision?
I can't say for sure whether I think it's the right decision at this point. I believe that if there were some pertinent, information that would lead to further investigation and due process and justice and accountability, then I believe that these absolutely should be released. I don't know why anything at this point in time would continue to be further hidden or covered. I think it's way past time that answers. These answers need to be. We need to hear the answers to multiple questions, ongoing questions.
Yeah, ongoing indeed. And for viewers here who may be hearing from you and hearing your story for the first time, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Ghislaine Maxwell and the role she played here, the role she played in your story, considering that she seems to be playing a significant role in what the government is doing right now.
Yes, indeed. Ghislaine Maxwell had a leading role in my experience, unfortunately. She is the grand facilitator of setting me up for utter tragedy, really. So she was very, very good at what she was doing there. And it's, very clearly the understanding due to the charges and conviction that she had so much to do, unfortunately, with facilitating many, many crimes against many young girls and even children. And, that's pretty, that kind of behavior, should be landing her right where she's at, in jail. The current temperature, I would say, around what is happening with her, it's all still massively confusing, I think, to me. I think that her being shifted from one federal maximum security prison to another, or to the prison she's at right now in Texas, is extremely questionable, and I don't quite think that anyone really understands why this seems like a privilege. This seems like a privilege to what she's been given, and she's just played a massive role in the heartache, in the trauma and tragedy of so many people. So I don't feel there should be any type of reduced sentence or any type of privilege that she's receiving. She's caused so much destruction, unfortunately.
Would there be any reason to believe anything that Ghislaine Maxwell has to say?
I don't understand how that could be the case, considering she has been, charged with lying under oath already. I feel like we've seen this act before where she was willing to raise her hand under oath and declare what she had to say was the truth when in fact it was entirely false. So what she has to say now, I just don't see how that could possibly be believed, because she's very self-serving. She's proven that.
Teresa Helm, I want to thank you very much for taking some time to be with us tonight. We really appreciate it.